So, did you succeed adding the expense that is created here to this list of expenses? Let's do it together now. And for this, we have to go to expenses Dart, because that's where we manage this list of expenses. And in here, we can add a new method that could be called add expense, because that's in the end what we want to do. And here in the end, I expect to get an expense value that should be of type expense, so using our custom class here as a type. And then here, I want to reach out to registered expenses and call the built-in add method, which is provided by Dart on all lists, to add a new item to the list. And of course here I want to add this expense as an item. Of course, that's not all I want to do though. Instead, this should be done inside of setState, like this, to make sure that the UI is updated so that the updated list is output here with help of expenses list. But that is all we have to do to add a new expense. Though of course at the moment, add expense is never executed. Now it should be executed from inside this new expense widget here. And to do that, we have to go to that widget and there add a new property. A new property that will actually store a function as a value, as we already did it in other course sections where you learned about this pattern of accepting functions as values in your own widgets. And this should be a function that returns nothing, but actually provides an expense value. And the property could be named onAddExpense, and I choose this naming pattern to make it clear that this in the end will contain a function that should be executed when a certain event occurs. In this case, when this form is submitted. Of course, here we then also have to accept this argument, this named parameter, and I'll use that same name by using this shortcut, and I'll require it, because this widget won't work if we don't provide this function. So with that, we got onAddExpense in our new expense widget class, but of course we need it inside of this new expense state class. We need it here inside of submit expense data after this if check down here. But as you also learned before in this course, you can get access to properties of the widget class that belongs to your state class by using the special widget property provided by Flutter. This is available in classes that extend the state class, as we're doing it here. And this simply gives you access to the connected widget class. And therefore we can also get access to this onAddExpense function property and execute it as a function here, because it is a function, and pass our expense to it. And for this, we create a new expense here, where we have to set title, amount, and so on. And the title, of course, is the value stored in title controller text. So this value here, that's what we assign here as a value for title. For the amount, we use this entered amount, which I'm extracting here. So this parsed text, which we validated. So at this point down there, we know that it's valid. Otherwise, we wouldn't have reached that code, because this return statement would have made sure that we don't get there if one of these values would have been invalid. The date is the selected date, of course. And here we get an error because Dart thinks that it could be null, but we know that it won't be null down there thanks to our validation. Hence we can add an exclamation mark to tell Dart that we're sure that this won't be null. And the category here is of course the selected category. And with that, we're creating our expense and we're passing that expense as a value to onAddExpense and therefore indirectly to addExpense. And now we just need to make sure that this addExpense function is passed as a value to new expense. So therefore here, we simply have to refer to addExpense. Now with that, we just have to remove const here. And this of course is also not a positional argument, but instead the value that should be set for onAddExpense. So this named onAddExpense parameter. And with that, we're passing this add expense function as a value to new expense so that it can be executed from inside there. And if we now save that all, and we try this and enter some values here, and select a date, and then also pick a value here and save this, we can close this. We'll have to make sure that it closes automatically soon, but we can close it manually for now. And we see our new expense here with all the data we entered in our input fields. Now with that, we're able to submit our data after validating it, and we can add a new expense. But of course, now as a next step, I want to make sure that this overlay actually closes after we submitted the valid data. And I want to make sure that this keyboard, which opens up as we tap into these input fields, doesn't possibly obscure any buttons or anything like that. So that's what we'll work on next.